Trusting God, Part 2 of 6. Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. So, are you saying that I should just trust God, that he is in control, even though things don't make any sense right now? Are you saying that I shouldn't worry or get mad at others or complain about how bad things are right now? Are you saying that when I feel afraid or stressed or depressed, I should start praying to God directly and asking him to give me peace? Yes, that is exactly what I am saying, because it works. What? You don't believe me? Well, let me give you an example of a time when fear and confusion and panic gripped everyone. This was a time when nothing made sense. Everyone was locked up in their own homes, afraid to even go out into the streets. The world as they knew it was completely turned upside down. Nothing made sense, much like today. What am I talking about? I'm talking about when God sent his son Jesus to the world to help us, to lead us and teach us and heal us and show us how to love others and to love God with all our hearts. He healed the sick. He calmed the storms. He welcomed children and those who lived as outcasts. He fed the hungry. He showed people how to truly love one another. And just when everyone around him thought he would become king of the world and bring peace to all, Jesus himself was arrested. He was falsely accused. He was whipped, beaten, spit upon, and mocked by soldiers. All of Jesus' closest friends and followers left him and ran home to cower in fear. They wouldn't leave their houses. The worst thing and the hardest thing to believe was that Jesus let all these things happen to him. He didn't fight back or stop any of it. He did not even open his mouth to defend himself against the false accusations. In fact, they eventually pronounced him guilty and decided that his punishment was death. What was he guilty for? Well, basically, they charged him with lying and making fun of God, saying things that they didn't think could possibly be true. What did Jesus say? He said, I am the Son of God. He said that God was his Father. In fact, he said that he and the Father are one. But he also did things that went against many of their traditions. He helped people instead of judging them. He forgave people instead of condemning them. He talked with common people, children, people with illnesses, people who were not living holy lives at the time. And while the leaders of the time only associated with the good people in their minds, Jesus talked with everyone. He went to their houses and ate with them. He even relaxed with them while he taught about God's love and how they could turn their lives around and begin following him as an example. He told them that the Pharisees, the religious leaders at the time, did things for show. In other words, they walked around all high and mighty in public in front of others, condemning people for their actions, but secretly, they themselves were full of sin and bad thoughts. And Jesus was right. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law didn't like that one bit. So they made a plan to have Jesus arrested. There was no way that they wanted to lose their power and influence with the people, especially to someone who claimed to be God. They decided that something had to be done quickly. So they secretly worked with one of Jesus' followers, paying him a large sum of money just to turn over Jesus to the authorities. And just like that, they took Jesus away. They charged him with lying and saying things about God that weren't true. They sentenced him to death by crucifixion. This meant that after they had beaten and whipped him, they laid him on a wooden cross and nailed his hands and his feet to it. Then they stood the cross up next to two other crosses that held criminals on them. And as Jesus and these two other men hung for hours, dying on their crosses, the soldiers around them mocked Jesus. They insulted him. They made fun of him. And what was Jesus' response? Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Luke 23, verse 34. The power of Jesus' words were incredible, and even now they shake us to our cores. Jesus allowed himself to be falsely accused, cruelly mistreated, brutally whipped and beaten, and eventually crucified to accomplish a few different things. But one of the things is seldom talked about today. You see, one of the things that Jesus sought to demonstrate through this cruel torture was his desire to forgive people, even though they didn't really deserve it. He asked God to forgive them because Jesus stated that they didn't really know what they were doing. They were confused. They were following wrong thoughts. They hadn't learned to trust Jesus yet. Of course, yet is the key word. Jesus believed that the first step in understanding who he was, who he is, and being open to his message was to know that his love is unconditional. Yes, Jesus forgives our sins, but one of the most important declarations he made was to state it out loud on the cross to those who were killing him at the time. He wanted the very people who were crucifying him to hear his voice speaking to them, to hear that he was forgiving them. That is a powerful love on a level that no one had ever experienced before.